All right, what's going on, y'all? Today I'm going to take you through a full back workout of mine. So I actually have two back workouts. I do a pull A and a pull B. This is going to be pull B today, but both pull A and pull B have 5 back movements, and they both target thickness and width. So I choose movements for both pull A and pull B that hits the width of the back and the thickness of the back. I don't separate the two. So you're going to have a full back workout today that you guys can go ahead and perform. And I'm going to show you how to do this with high intensity. So I don't do the high volume. This is actually somewhat lower volume, but it is high intensity. So this is focusing all on getting strong and building that hard, dense muscle and really getting that back thick and wide. But I'm going to go ahead, give you guys a voiceover, show you the reps, the sets, and the movements that go along with this back workout. But let's go ahead and get into this.
All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get into this workout. So for the first movement, I choose lat pull down. Now I do some version of a lat pull down on both pull A and pull B. The only difference between the two is either A, which attachment I'm using, or B, which style I'm using. So I might do single arm versus both at the same time. For here, I use kind of the middle mag grip. So, you know, they've got the really wide mag grip, the narrow one. This is the middle one. By the way, if you haven't tried mag grips, MAG, definitely give them a shot whenever you can. They definitely hit the lats in a completely different way. But for right here, what you're seeing are my warm-up sets. So compared to most people, you know, most people are doing high volume. So they'll pyramid up in weight and pyramid down in reps. So, you know, your first set might be a set of 12, you know, say 100 pounds, then you might add 20 pounds to that, get 10 reps at 120. And then on your top set, your final set, you might get 8 reps at 140. The way I do things is high intensity bodybuilding. So, you know, there's been a lot of legends in the sport, from Dorian Yates to Mike Mincer to many of the top guys right now. Essentially, their first working set is their top set, is their heaviest set. Now, when you think about this, now you're able to actually lift heavier weight. You've not fatigued yourself on the first 2 sets. So right here's my actual working set. I'll continue talking about high intensity in just a second. But right here, I'm aiming to get 8 to 12 reps. I do this both on my top set and my back off set. So for right here, what we're doing is 2 working sets. So the first 3 sets you actually saw were my warm-up sets, and I'll continue talking about the purpose of those in just a second. But right here, this is my actual top set. So I'm going all the way to failure, and then I get, you know, kind of just a partial rep there at the end, and that's just an intensity extender. But I don't actually count that in the logbook. This right here, this is my back off set. So I've decreased the weight just a bit, about 10 to 20% off of my top set, and I'm continuing trying to get 10 to 15 reps on this back off set. So typically the top set, I'm trying to get 8 to 12 reps, and then the back off set, I'm trying to get 10 to 15. So back to high intensity, you know, now, you know, after you build up with your warm-up sets, which should not be fatiguing at all. The whole purpose of the warm-up sets is to pump blood into the muscle, really get your form locked down for your top set. But, you know, since you haven't had, you know, 2 or 3 working sets prior to that top set, your top set is now going to be way heavier than if you're doing the standard volume approach. You're going to build a lot denser muscle, a lot more efficiently doing that than just a typical high volume approach, in my opinion and many other people's opinion. So now, second movement, moved on to rack pulls. So that was my final warm-up set right there. A question I get on warm-up sets all the time is, you know, how many should you do? I typically do 2 to 3 warm-up sets. They can range anywhere from 2 to 8 reps. They're not supposed to be working at all. So you're not supposed to be fatiguing the muscle at all. You're saving all of that for your top set. So this right here, this is my top set. I'm shooting for 8 to 12 reps on this. A big thing with all of the movements you'll see today is I, A, try to get full range of motion, and then B, I try to have full control throughout the entire movement. So you'll see a lot of people will essentially, you know, they'll have the pulling motion will be spot on, but then their eccentric or the negative of the movement, they're just letting go. Right there you saw I missed the rack completely right there. But a lot of people essentially aren't controlling their negatives at all. The negatives are where you're actually doing a lot of muscle breakdown. That's where you actually can go ahead and really start growing your muscles a lot faster, is if you really do pay attention to controlling the negative. You know, and that might mean, you know, on some movements, actually having up to 3-second negatives. You'll see some movements, especially the next movement, I really tried to do some slow negatives. But right here, this is my back off set. So I just pulled off the 25s off the side. And once again, on rack pulls, on my heavy compound lifts, I try to do 8 to 12 reps on both the top set and the back off set. So with lat pull down and rack pulls, we've only got 2 working sets. We've got 1 top set, 1 back off set, and that's after I've already done the warm-up sets to build to that. So then our third movement for today, we've got a cable row. And once again, I'm using that kind of middle mag grip. In this right here, this is my warm-up set. So I'm just getting prepped for my top set, really filling out the range of motion for the movement. And, you know, by this point in the workout, I've got enough blood in the muscle. It's not really that. It's really just locking in that form. But with the warm-up sets, once again, you know, you do not want to be using heavy weight with the warm-up sets. You don't want to be fatiguing yourself. You want to save it for your top set, your actual working sets. So right here, we've got 2 working sets, just like the other movements. We've got a top set, which is this right here, and then we'll do a back off set in just a second. Now with a lot of other workouts, so, you know, it could be a different back day. It could be, you know, especially on push day and leg days, I do other intensity extenders. So by an intensity extender, that means once I hit failure, and failure is going to where you literally can't perform a full range of motion rep again. So an intensity extender can be something as simple as, you know, a partial rep. So you're only getting, you know, half a rep, or it can be, you know, anything like a drop set or a rest pause set. Those are typically the 2 intensity extenders I use. For today's workout, I only use partial reps. I didn't do any drop sets or rest pause sets, but both of those are great to add to some of your back off sets. I wouldn't do them on heavy compound lifts, like, you know, on rack pulls. I wouldn't go ahead and add an intensity extender on those. You know, you really want to have your form extremely locked in, and intensity extenders, you know, you're not going to have that perfect range on a lot of those. So, you know, with a drop set, what you're essentially going to do is you're going to go to failure with a certain weight, and then you're going to immediately, without taking a break, you're going to pick up, you know, a lesser weight and go to failure with that. I mean, you can do that multiple times. So, you know, if you were doing curls, you know, and you start with, say, 50s, you could go to failure with 50s, then go pick up the 40s, go to failure with that, and then pick up the 30s and try to get a couple reps with that. But this is our next movement. We've got reverse pec deck. A lot of people think that reverse pec deck is only for your rear delts. Yes, it primarily does target rear delts, but it's really hitting all of that upper back musculature. And I've really seen a lot of my upper back grow from really honing in on reverse pec deck. But you're seeing right here, one, my setup is really key. So I'm, in a way, basically I'm pushing my pelvis up against the pad, and then I'm kind of inverting my back a little bit. So I've got my chest tied up against the pad of the machine, and I'm trying to get really full range of motion. You'll see a lot of people will swing their arms completely back, and they're missing the muscles that are intended for this movement completely. And then other people you'll see are just completely swinging the arms out. So you really want to have your elbows kind of locked in place. So if you want to, you know, keep them very slightly bent, like what I've got right here, you know, that's going to allow you to completely just isolate that upper back musculature. But for this, I actually do 3 working sets. So I've got a top set, a standard back off set, and then another standard back off set. Once again, I don't do any intensity extenders on this, except just some partial reps there at the end. But, you know, this is definitely one that I love to incorporate in my pull days. It really does help target the upper back. So another key thing I want to point out is, if you guys have seen from my warm-up sets all the way through to my top sets and back off sets, the way I'm setting up on pretty much every movement is exactly the same. So every single movement, I've got basically a way I get into the machine or go up against the barbell. You'll see me do that on deadlifts, on squats. I've got that for almost every single movement. And that's extremely important. You know, that's something that they teach, you know, powerlifters and strongman competitors. And it's not taught enough in bodybuilding, in my opinion. But with doing high intensity bodybuilding, where you're going to be getting a lot stronger than just a typical bodybuilder, you absolutely want to have your own setup routine for the movements. It's going to keep you a lot safer. But then 2, you're going to be locked in for, you know, your top sets and your back off sets, where you're, you know, you've got that kind of balls to the wall mentality. you're going to be able to go all the way to failure with some really, really heavy weight, compared to if you're just doing the volume approach and you're just trying to pump blood into the muscle and really just go for a pump workout. Those pump workouts, guys, they're fine. But there's a lot of wasted volume in those. High intensity, you really are, you're targeting the muscle, and you're building up the muscle a lot stronger than if you were just doing volume. You'll be able to lift a lot more heavier weight, and you'll get a lot denser muscle. So there's my warm-up set for the last back movement today, which is dumbbell shrugs. I like actually alternating between doing dumbbell shrugs and then machine shrugs. But what you can see right here is I've got full range of motion. So I'm letting my arms come completely down. And I've actually got that with especially every row movement, but pretty much every back movement. You want to have full, complete extension. So if you're doing any type of row, you're doing a bent over barbell row, dumbbell row, anything like that, you want to have gravity be your friend. You want to come all the way down and have all full range of motion. So this right here is my top set. I'm getting a partial rep there at the end. And in my logbook, guys, I'm not counting partial reps. I will make note of partial reps, and I will make note of any intensity extenders on back off sets. So, if I did a drop set, I might write, I did 12, by hundreds, and then I dropped down and did, 6 with 80s or whatever. So I will make note of it in my logbook. But for the purposes of progressing, that next week, I'm only really going to be trying to beat my standard numbers. But the intensity extenders are great ways to really, really blast the muscle. Make sure you go past failure and really do some extra damage to the muscle to build it up. But this right here, this is my back off set. I only do 2 sets here with shrugs, and this is the end of the back workout today. So it's very simple. There's not that many sets to this workout. It's a lot of warm-up sets and then top sets and back off sets. But there's not a lot of volume, but it's an extremely effective back workout. This is pretty much what I've been doing. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.